Oklahoma had it in the bag, and Alabama had other ideas. Full reaction to the first playoff game of the weekend.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to a live reaction episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day and post-playoff viewing. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much, especially my everydayers, for making that the case. Oklahoma, Alabama, so many thoughts going both directions. How did it go? So unbelievably wrong for the Sooners. And you know what, just for fun, some more transfer quarterback thoughts on today's show, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Oklahoma up 17-0 at home. Everything was going according to plan. John Mateer was throwing the ball. They ran it at least a little bit. They didn't turn the ball over. Their special teams were great. Their defense was dialed. Alabama couldn't do anything, and then Oklahoma let it all slip away. It's hard to believe, if you just look at the final score, that there was a 17-0 lead for the home team in this game. A 34-7 eruption from Alabama ends Oklahoma's season. And I want to make it very clear right off the top, I don't think either of these teams was going to beat Indiana or is going to beat Indiana in Alabama's case. I don't think either one is a national championship contender. I think you saw two very flawed football teams, good, with really good resumes, deserve to be. I had them in my playoff field. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been there. I don't think either one is a national championship caliber team. But the run that Alabama went on in this game, unbelievably gutsy stuff, because you're on the road. Norman was on fire. The environment, incredible. This is why we need more home playoff games. This is why teams that get a first round bye should get a home playoff game. Unbelievable environment. And for Alabama, who made just a little bit of history here, only the second season of the 12-team playoff, but they are the first road team to win a college football playoff game in the modern era. I'm sure they won't be the last. But for them to have done it in this fashion against that Oklahoma defense, one of the best in all of college football, man, it's got to feel bad for the Sooners. I'm going to save more Alabama thoughts for later in the show, and I want to start with Oklahoma here, because this has to feel so unbelievably bad. I talked going into this game about how I felt like the first to 20 was going to win. Now, that was true. Alabama hit the 20-point threshold before Oklahoma did. I did not in any way, shape, or form make that statement thinking that was going to lead to one team going on to score over 30 with the way these offenses had been playing. And even though there were some incredible plays on both sides of the ball, this has to feel so bad if you're an Oklahoma fan, because 24 points, I think, outperformed most people's expectations. Our friends at FanDuel had the over-under in this game at 40.5. And there were 58 points scored, way past what was supposed to happen. If you told Oklahoma fans before the game started, you're going to score 24 points, they'd go, all right. Are we winning by 11 because they're scoring 13, or 10 because they're scoring 14? Because you're not going to hold Alabama to single digits, but Alabama's not getting to 20. Well, what do you know? And I don't in any way, shape, or form, I don't think anybody else will either, put any blame on the Oklahoma kicker, Tate Sandell, who, yeah, he was 1 of 3 in the game, but you know what? That wasn't the problem. That wasn't the problem. And the reason this feels so bad for Oklahoma is that it was your defense. Everything about Oklahoma was based on that side of the ball, and that's what let you down. End of the day. That's what let you down. Yeah, John Mateer's pick 6, that doesn't help. So why don't you take that off the board? 27 points? 27 points at home. Bama's offense was inept for well over a quarter and a half, and then all of a sudden, the game was tied going into the break. I mean, to have a 3-possession lead at home, to have it on a neutral site or on the road would be incredibly telling if you gave up that particular. But to do this at home, when your defense is supposed to be helped even more because you got the home crowd behind you, man, that's got to feel really, really bad. And demonstrative of the flaws that this Oklahoma football team truly possesses and has possessed all year. They can't run the ball, they can't protect John Mateer, and their offense, frankly, just isn't that good. Ben Arbuckle has some creative schemes and concepts, but there's no fluidity, no consistency, no identity to it whatsoever. And after jumping out to the big lead, Alabama made adjustments, and they had no consistent response. Their biggest play came on a scramble. And then Kane Wack, the Alabama defensive coordinator, was just running circles around the Oklahoma offensive staff. They were bringing blitzes from all over the place. They had no idea how to pick it up. Absolutely no idea. So for the thing that Oklahoma was so reliant upon, was so good at, to be what ultimately let them down more than anything in this game, that makes it feel worse. That makes it feel way worse. If Oklahoma had lost this game 14-13, that would have felt way better for Sooner fans. Because I think you could have turned around, walked up the bleachers there in Norman, and thought to yourself, we knew the offense wasn't good enough. We knew that, and now we know for sure. We thought the offense wasn't good enough. Now we know for sure. Got to keep improving on that side of the ball. But I am a huge fan in football, any sport. Rely on your best guys. Rely on what got you to the position that you are in. And Oklahoma did that with their decision making. They didn't go for it on fourth down a bunch. They played the field position game. That was a big part of the first game. I heard this on the Oklahoma radio broadcast. Their average starting field position, Alabama's, was inside of their own 28. It was like their own 24-yard line or something. And Oklahoma's was beyond the 30 in their first meeting. It was a big part of why Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa and got a win. They were playing that same game. The game plan didn't change. The results did because Oklahoma's defense could not deliver. And I don't think that Oklahoma's defense was fraudulent. I don't think they were just going against teams that weren't able to expose them all season long. Alabama just went out and played a heck of a football game. That's what this came down to at the end of the day. So it's definitely a gut punch for the Sooners for it to end like that at home. But do I think either of these teams are going on to win it all? Nope. Definitely not. Keep leaving your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, however you want to get in touch. Let's flip over, talk about Alabama, shall we? Because, boy, they showed some real moxie in this game. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. The holidays show up faster than we expect, and if you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair's got you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair is truly your one-stop shop for everything home with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. It's like a holiday buffet. You got everything you need with a huge selection, a bunch of great items, and the Wayfair items you order will instantly refresh your space without a big project, without the major hassle. Wayfair is here to help you do the holidays right. Get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And guess what? Keep fading my best bets. Maybe I should just rebrand them to the worst bets. That's the sort of season that I'm having. FanDuel's just gotten the better of me. I picked Oklahoma to win the game, and Alabama won it by 10. Didn't see that one coming. If you did, and you think you know how the rest of the playoff games are going, FanDuel's the place to do it. Point spread, money line, point total, prop bets. FanDuel's got everything you want. Futures, it's all over there. If you think you know what's happening in the college football playoff, Put your mind to the test with FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season as well on the NFL side, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. So, Alabama storms back. A 34-7 run. I mean, boy. Ty Simpson was not supremely efficient in this game. Alabama as a team ran for 28 yards. These teams combine in this game to run for 83 yards. The leading rusher was Daniel Hill at Alabama. He had 9 carries for 43 yards. His longest run, because they factor in college football sack yardage, which I don't care for, into rushing totals, his longest run was actually more than the rest of the Alabama team had combined. He had a 30-yard carry. It was bizarre. Almost broke it for a touchdown. And the Alabama team ends with 28 rushing yards. Truly incredible stuff. But what Alabama did here was certainly gutsy. It was gritty. It was dig deep. It was have that stick-to-itiveness. It was a culture sort of win for Alabama to come back and win this football game. And guess what? It does not change how I feel about them going forward. Ty Simpson can make spectacularly good throws. I mean, holy smokes. The over-the-shoulder down the sideline to, I believe it was Isaiah Horton, who had a good game. That's something, man. That was some kind of throw. Jeremy Bernard personified, exemplified, physically manifested the term mossing somebody. Because when you jump right over the top of a guy and just, I'm just going to grab that ball from the other side of his helmet, that's what mossing looks like. And that's what Alabama can do. And I guess at some level it makes them dangerous. If they can do it against this Oklahoma defense on the road, who can't they do it against? I mean, they weren't able to do it against Georgia in the SEC championship game. But hey, maybe this is the confidence boost that they needed. You realize that Alabama was in the first quarter looking at a recent stretch of offense that had a good start and a poor finish against Auburn. Eastern Illinois doesn't count. 21 points at home against Oklahoma and 7 points against Georgia. That was where this offense was, and it looked like a continuation. I felt really good about my pick. I'm going, yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to win the game. Oh, look at that. Oklahoma's up 17-0. Well, certainly Oklahoma's defense isn't going to give up all those points. Certainly that they didn't give up all the points, but they gave up a lot of them. They gave up a lot of them. And let me just pull up the key stat of the game that also is going to drive Oklahoma fans insane, because when you hear this isn't good. This isn't good. You would think that in a game in which Alabama had 260 total yards, you'd be talking about a good defensive performance. Nope. You would think that in a game in which Alabama was 2 of 12 on third down, you'd be feeling good. Nope. Nope, you're not. How did Alabama win this game? They just made a couple of timely plays. Situational football that has been Oklahoma's benefit all season long. Going into this game, the reason I picked Oklahoma to win, I and many others, better defense, at home, better special teams. Well, here we are. And, what do you know? It was Oklahoma that had 2 missed field goals. And Connor Talty made both of his kicks for Alabama. And it was Alabama that actually had a couple of good punts that put the Oklahoma offense in a couple of bad spots. And it was the Alabama offense that found enough. That's what this game was. It was enough. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't incredible. But when the chips were down, backs were against the wall, they were on the ropes, Ty Simpson dug deep and just found a way. Dude was getting harassed. Not as if there wasn't plenty of pressure in there. He was sacked 4 times. And there was plenty more. There were plenty of other instances in which he was under duress. But the way that Ty Simpson just hung in there, found a way, made a couple of plays. It was just a couple of moments. And it just goes to show you the old cliche. On to the next play. Every play matters. Can't worry about the last one. That's what Alabama did. When you hear coaches talk about that, maybe they are trying to say something while really saying nothing. What happened in this game was what coaches actually talk about. I don't care what happened on the last one. I care what happens on the next one. I care that we're able to make the next play. And the Alabama offense did enough and made some of those deep throws that have been a hallmark of Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb's philosophy their entire coaching careers. You've got to be able to hit the one-on-one deep shots. And if you had again told me going into the game, hey, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard going to combine 4 catches for 45 yards. Well, you're probably keeping Alabama under 30 points, right? No, you're not? Uh-oh. Well, that's not very good. No, it isn't. So Ty Simpson did not statistically outplay John Mateer, but I watched the football game. I know which guy I would have rather had. I know which guy played better for 4 quarters and was the reason his team won, and I know which guy was a huge reason why his team lost. And yeah, it was just the one play. Welcome to college football, folks. So the Alabama offense to have found enough to go out there and get that win says a lot about the Crimson Tide. Do I think that what they did in this game offensively is sustainable going forward? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not believe when they play Indiana that they're going to go and put up 34 points. They're welcome to prove me wrong. They're going to have that opportunity, and they have earned it. They've absolutely earned it. But while they found a way, I don't think you're going to go against an offense that will struggle as much against this Bama defense as Oklahoma did, because Indiana's got a better offensive line. They are one of the finalists, or were, for the Joe Moore Award this year. All those teams were actually in the Big Ten. It was Oregon, Indiana, and Iowa. And Oklahoma's offensive line, I don't know if they've even heard of the Joe Moore Award in Norman, because they haven't had a unit that is close to contending to be even a finalist for it in quite some time. And that's what Oklahoma's got to be able to figure out going forward. You can bring back John Mateer at quarterback, and you can go have success. You get right back to the playoff. You can win a game or two next year. But not if you go with that offensive line again and that complete and utter lack of a run game again. You can't do it. And I think Bama's going to run into that in the next round against Indiana. So let me flip over and talk about the Alabama defense. Kane Wack last year took a lot of flack. And you know what? It was deserved. It was absolutely deserved, because the Alabama defense gave up so many points and third downs to Vanderbilt. I thought at one point they were maybe throwing the game just for fun, just to create the story of Vanderbilt beating Alabama. I was having an out-of-body experience watching that game, as were most people. And he took a lot of flack, and you know what Kalen DeBoer did? He doubled down and said, nope, sticking with my guy. Well, he earned his money tonight, and then some. I've been noting for weeks, hey, this Alabama defense is better than most people think. Hey, they've been quietly playing pretty good football. Well, they flipped the game around, not just with Zabian Brown's pick 6, in which John Mateer and his wide receiver were not on the same page. Hallmark of an offense that is not operating at peak efficiency, but I've already addressed that side of it. The Alabama defense, the havoc that they created at the line of scrimmage was the difference in the game, including the pick 6. Because I think a part of that is that Mateer felt, I got to get rid of the ball. That internal clock, it started churning, it started ticking, it started going over and over again. I got to get rid of it. Phew. Uh-oh, that's not good. So for the defense to come out and play as poorly as they did early on, and they made some mistakes early on, and blew a couple assignments, and they weren't tackling very well. They still don't tackle spectacularly well, which is strange to say about Alabama. But the way that they were schemed was so incredibly good. And Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, got out-coached by Kane Wack, the defensive coordinator for Alabama. That's what that came down to. I think there's a personnel gap, but did you notice LT Overton was on the sideline? Alabama created that much pressure without arguably the best defensive lineman. That is phenomenal coaching. They had the Oklahoma offensive line. I'm pretty sure at the end of the game, they got a free run at John Mateer with a 3-man rush. You knew it was pass pro. Well, obviously the offense always knows the play. But you're in a pass pro set, and they're running simple twists and stunts, and the Oklahoma offensive line had absolutely no answer. So credit Kane Wack, credit the Alabama defense. Indiana's going to have to contend with that. I think they're going to handle it much, much better. But John Mateer, Fernando Mendoza, two very different quarterbacks. So we'll see what that game plan looks like. But the way that they responded after falling down 17-0 to make the play, to get it tied before the half, boy. And then there was, I didn't even mention this. Because, again, my reason for picking Oklahoma in the game. Defense, special teams, at home, check, check, check. Yeah, offense, lean Alabama, but I don't like either offense. The special teams were a disaster for Oklahoma. 2 missed field goals and then the drop punt. That led to 3 points. Only 3, but still 3. And it tied the game before the half. And when you have a 17-0 lead, doubt starts to creep in. When the other team comes back and actually physically ties it, it's different. Even if it's a close game. If Alabama had missed the extra point and were 17-16, I think it could have played out differently at that point. But once they actually come back and tie it, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, we're at home with a 3-possession lead, and now the game is tied. Uh-oh. And then it all spiraled from there. So, keep leaving your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all that good stuff. Did you see the quarterback that went in the portal? No, I'm talking about Josh Hoover another time. I'm talking about a guy that could wind up at Indiana. First, this episode brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. Few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money should not feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. And you'll like how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. It keeps you on track without overthinking it, which is not something you want to do in any part of your life, and money's no exception. Having the app find good times to save each month keeps you consistent with your financial goals. So take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com. You can see it here if you're watching on youtube.com/lockedon, all caps, all one word. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, so Drew Mestemaker is in the portal. And I heard a little birdie. Sometimes I'm reacting to news. Sometimes I share a little inside info here. This is a little bit of that. I heard that that Indiana might be going after Drew Mestemaker here. I don't want that to happen. I'm not kidding. I don't. Oh, he'd do well at Indiana. Don't get me wrong. The North Texas transfer would be spectacular if he went to Indiana. You know why? Because just about any quarterback would be spectacular if he went to Indiana. Here's the thing, though. If he goes there, Oklahoma State is left scrambling. And I don't want them to be in that position, because that's a proud program at Oklahoma State. It has been for quite some time. This season was the worst ever in the Mike Gundy era. He, of course, has since been fired. They were one game from the college football playoff. They would be in Tulane's position, playing Ole Miss on Saturday. If they had won the American Championship, they lost to Tulane. So Mestemaker this year has thrown for over 4,000 yards, 4,100 to be exact. Over 4,100 exactly, 4,129, 31 touchdowns, 7 picks, just under 10 yards per attempt, and a 70% completion. He's 6'4", 211 pounds. Boy, he puts on just a little bit of weight. He will look and feel like an Indiana quarterback. He'd be Fernando Mendoza 2.0. I think if he went to the Hoosiers, it'd be a smashing success. And I've heard that they made an offer. I hope he winds up at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, coming off a season like that, for a program like that, I just have this gut instinct in me to root for him. And if Oklahoma State doesn't get Drew Mestemaker, and remember, his head coach, Eric Morris, is now Oklahoma State's head coach. Their next option will not be, their pivot player, if you will not be as strong as what Indiana's pivot could be. Indiana, with its track record over the last couple of years, and the fact that they're about to play Alabama in the college football playoff, which is insane in and of itself as a sentence to be able to say, Indiana can go and get a bunch of different guys. There are a lot of names out there, and some really good ones, which is something I've talked about for a while. I thought this would be a better and deeper class of transfer quarterbacks. That is what we have so far. I mean, going to talk about him on Monday. Josh Hoover to Indiana. There's something I'd pull for from the Hoosiers standpoint. Because if Drew Mestemaker doesn't go be a Cowboy and join the program in Stillwater, I don't think their pivot option is Sam Leavitt at Arizona State, who's also reportedly considering Indiana. So Mestemaker just burst onto the scene this year. If I were him, man, ask John Mateer how easy it is to go from the group of 5 level to one of the 2 best conferences in college football. Going from the American to the Big 12 in a place where the weather's warmer, shall we say, than it is all the time in Indiana. Mestemaker's got a good enough arm, not saying that. Same system, easier conference, lower expectations than what you have in Indiana. Maybe he feels like he's ready for that jump, in which case, more power to him. But I heard that Indiana was at the very least poking around, and I thought, boy, that'd be a bummer. That'd be a bummer for my guy, Cody Stovall, over at Locked On Oklahoma State. They can get a bunch of different guys. I don't know that Oklahoma State can. Then again, can Oklahoma State make the same caliber of offer? This is why Mike Gundy earlier this year, even though it led to Dan Lanning using it in his pregame hype message to his team, this is why he was talking about money, saying, hey, they got a bunch of money over there. We got to have some, because he knew in situations like this, you want to get the best players, you better be able to make a competitive financial offer in addition to doing all the right things as a recruiting staff. So, just a name to keep an eye on as the portal opens on January 2nd. Lots of guys going in. That quarterback market, as crazy as it's ever been. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.